It had been a long few months since Margaret lost her husband. After 41 years of marriage, she found herself adjusting to the kind of silence that crept into the house like fog. Her days were simple: morning coffee, feeding the birds outside her window, and calling her son Brian every other evening just to hear a familiar voice. Brian had married Lindsay 3 years ago. Lindsay was polished, always wearing the latest trends, posting inspirational quotes on Instagram, and somehow managing to sound both sweet and cold at the same time. Margaret had always tried to like her, truly. She wanted to believe her son had chosen someone kind, but something in her gut had always felt off. Still, she kept those feelings to herself. Families weren't perfect, and she didn't want to stir trouble. But everything changed the morning she opened that envelope. The credit card bill came in a bright white envelope with her name on it. Nothing out of the ordinary. She flipped it open, expecting the usual gas and grocery charges. But instead, her eyes widened. Cartier, Tiffany & Company, Delta Airlines. The charges stacked up like bricks. $8, $500 here, $13,200 there. A final charge for a week-long stay at a luxury resort in Miami. The total balance? $53,176.34. Margaret's hands began to tremble. Surely this was fraud. She wasn't tech-savvy, but she wasn't careless either. She picked up the phone and called her credit card company immediately. The customer service agent was polite and sympathetic. After confirming her identity and reviewing the charges, he said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but these purchases were made with a correct billing address, and your card's chip was physically used at every transaction. Whoever made these charges had the card in hand." She froze. That card was always in her purse. She hadn't used it in weeks. A sinking feeling settled in her chest. The last time she saw the card, she remembered clearly. It had been the night of Brian's birthday. They had all gone out to dinner at a seafood place near the river. Margaret had picked up the tab, and she remembered Lindsay offering to return the card to her wallet afterward. At the time, it seemed like a small favor. But now, it clicked. Margaret wanted to believe it wasn't true, that there was some other explanation. But her gut wouldn't let her ignore it. She didn't call Brian, not yet. She needed more than a hunch. She needed proof. So Margaret, the retired teacher with no tech skills, decided to investigate. Her first move was checking her security camera. It wasn't much, just a simple doorbell cam, but it caught a lot. She rewound the footage to the night of Brian's birthday. Around 11:37 p.m., she saw Lindsay leaving the house while everyone else was in the kitchen. She watched as Lindsay stepped out the front door, then paused and returned 5 minutes later, slipping something into her purse. Margaret's heart raced. That alone wasn't definitive, but it added weight to her suspicion. The next day, she visited the jewelry store where the largest purchase was made. She brought her ID, explained the situation, and asked to speak with the manager. "Ma'am," the manager said gently, "I remember the woman who made that purchase. She said she was buying an anniversary gift for her mother-in-law. Blonde, very stylish, had a southern accent." Margaret showed him a photo of Lindsay on her phone. "That's her," he nodded. That was the moment Margaret knew for sure. It wasn't identity theft. It wasn't a mistake. It was betrayal from someone inside the family. Still, she didn't want to act on emotion. So she did something unexpected. She invited Lindsay over for lunch. The afternoon was quiet. Margaret made lemonade and set the table outside. Lindsay arrived in her usual way, smiling, sunglasses on, purse swinging like everything in life was perfectly under control. Margaret smiled too, masking her storm of emotions. They sat and chatted politely. Lindsay spoke about yoga classes and her upcoming self-care retreat. Margaret nodded, waiting for the right moment. Then she stood up, walked inside, and came back with the credit card bill. She placed it gently on the table between them. Lindsay's eyes flicked down, and in a heartbeat, the smile vanished. Margaret said nothing. She simply looked at her. After a long pause, Lindsay spoke, her voice low. "I was going to pay it back." Margaret's expression didn't change. "I just needed a break, Margaret. I've been under so much pressure. I didn't think you'd notice." Margaret remained calm. You didn't think I'd notice $53,000 missing? Lindsay shifted, eyes darting. It's not like that. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I thought you wouldn't report it. You always try to keep the peace. Margaret sat back, her voice quiet but firm. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. And I won't press charges yet. But you will tell Brian. And you'll return every penny. Or I will. Lindsay didn't answer. She stood up and left, without finishing her lemonade. Later that night, Brian called. His voice was shaking. Mom, Lindsay told me everything.
I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry.
I had no idea. Margaret's heart ached. I know, son. I know. Over the next few weeks, Lindsay made partial payments, but then stopped responding. Brian moved out. He filed for divorce months later, after finding out there were other secrets too: credit cards, lies, debts. It was more than just Margaret's card. It had been going on for years. Margaret didn't gloat. She didn't say, I told you so. Instead, she helped Brian get back on his feet. She invited him to move in temporarily. They began cooking dinners together again, laughing like they hadn't in years. For a while, Margaret struggled with bitterness. Not because of the money, but because of the trust that was broken. But over time, something changed. Margaret started volunteering at a local women's shelter, teaching budgeting and life skills. She shared her story, anonymously at first, and realized she wasn't alone. So many others had been taken advantage of, manipulated, and left confused. Her pain became her purpose. And as for Brian, he slowly healed too. He found a new job, started therapy, and began to rediscover who he was before the chaos. One day, as they sat on the porch drinking lemonade again, Margaret looked at him and said, You know, sometimes life takes everything from you just to show you what really matters. Brian smiled. I think I finally understand what you mean. This wasn't just a story about a stolen card. It was about the quiet strength of a woman who refused to let betrayal define her. About a mother who chose grace over revenge. And about how sometimes, in losing everything, you find the beginning of something new. If this story moved you, leave a comment below and rate it from 1 to 10. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this, and share it with someone who might need to hear it today.